Kumara, or sweet potato as some of you might know it, is in full season here in New Zealand at the moment. It's very affordable and it's at its best right now. So what can we do with it that's interesting, tastes good and looks amazing? Hi, I'm Taryn. Welcome. I love food that looks amazing, and when you take your first bite, you're not disappointed. We were always taught at chef school, it's flavour first and how it looks is a very close second. Today we're using kumara or sweet potato to create 3 different entrees or starters that look great and taste amazing too. You can get lots of different kumara varieties here in New Zealand. These 2 are probably the most common ones available. This is the purple kind, my personal favourite. It's got a slightly floury, fluffy texture, and this is the orange variety. I find this one is a lot softer in texture than the purple kind. Well, these entrees aren't going to make themselves, so let's get into it. The first entree we're going to make is a small whole-baked kumara stuffed with sour cream and sweet chilli sauce. These are the things we need. A couple of small whole kumara, I'm using the purple variety, oil and salt for roasting, and sour cream, sweet chilli sauce, fresh chives, balsamic reduction, and herb oil for garnishing. We're going to roast the kumara whole until they're soft. I'm just going to give them a wee wipe with a lightly oiled paper towel and then pop them onto a tray. This is a nice way to get a light, even coating of oil all over the kumara and ensure even roasting. I always give anything I'm roasting a little sprinkle of salt to bring out the flavour, and then we'll pop them into the oven and let them roast away until they're soft. These are ready, so I'll leave them to cool a little. You can fill or stuff kumara with so many delicious things. By making a slit in the top and pushing the soft centre out a little from the base, it makes it look much fuller. If we just cut a slit and then filled it, it's trickier to fill and doesn't look as nice when filled. Can you see the difference here? So push it out and enhance the appearance of your stuffed kumara. I'm going to add a generous blob of sour cream to the centre. You don't have to use sour cream, a garlic aioli would be lovely too. Then I'm going to add some sweet chilli sauce. A tomato relish or fruit chutney would be perfect too. And you can even get creative with a salsa style filling. Some chopped chives will give this a burst of green, which will look great. I've got a triangular shaped plate to serve this on today, but I also want to show you what this looks like on a couple of different plates. Here's a coloured plate. It's not really the right size for the kumara, but can you see the difference if I put the kumara onto it compared to the plain white plate? It definitely stands out better when the plate isn't overpowering the main focus. In my opinion, even this plate with a very subtle pattern doesn't have the same effect as the plain white plate. So back to our white plate. I love using a balsamic reduction. It looks great on the plate and it's not purely decorative. If you scrape up some of the balsamic reduction while eating the kumara, it'll complement the flavours of this entree beautifully. Of course we'll add some greenery to the plate too. I've got a herb oil which I'll just dot around. Then we can put the kumara in the centre. This looks amazing, doesn't it? And it sure doesn't disappoint when you take your first mouthful. Let's get on to our second option, a moulded kumara salad. These are the things we need. Some kumara, a little bit of bacon or bacon pieces, walnuts, finely diced red onion, peas, parmesan cheese, mayonnaise, sour cream, and spinach leaves for garnishing. We need to prepare our kumara. I'm going to peel it and dice it into a small dice, about 1 centimetre squares. For a moulded salad, it's important not to have the pieces too big. We want to compress them into the mould tightly to take the shape of the mould. I'll put the pieces into a small saucepan, bring them to the boil and let them simmer away until the kumara is tender. This shouldn't take too long as the pieces are fairly small. After about 10 minutes of boiling, you can add the frozen peas. They'll cook in the remaining time. Drain off the water and put it aside to cool. Next we can fry our bacon until it's crispy. I've got some bacon pieces here, but if you had rashers you could chop them into smaller squares before or after you've cooked them. When it's browned, pop it onto some paper towel to drain off the excess fat. This salad is delicious served warm or cold. You can either serve it as soon as it's ready or prepare it in advance so you can focus on getting the other items of your meal ready. We're ready to mix this all together. I've got the kumara and peas in a big mixing bowl. Then I'll add in the bacon, chopped walnuts and the finely diced red onion. A wee grate of fresh parmesan adds a lovely bit of flavour, but sometimes I don't have any and just leave it out. Mix the mayonnaise and sour cream together and then add it to the salad. Give it all a gentle mix around to combine everything together, and don't forget to season it with a little grind of salt. You do want to be careful not to add too much of the dressing. It wouldn't look too appealing having a pool of dressing on the plate, so just add enough to bind it all together. Time for plating. I'm going to use a black plate this time for contrast. I pop my mould here in the centre and spoon in the salad. Don't the subtle colours look great together? Make sure you press the salad down firmly to compact it into the mould. This will help to give the salad a firm base. Then top it up and press down again to flatten off the top. This mould is fairly big, so I'm not going to fill it right to the top. Now we can remove the mould. I love how a mould can transform a plain salad into something that looks so much more complicated than it really is. To contrast with the dark coloured plate, I'm going to add a few decorative dots of our leftover salad dressing around the base of this salad. The best way to add this tidily is by using a piping bag. Our plate is our canvas for creativity, so adding a few dots of mayonnaise will enhance the presentation, and it's adding more of the dressing we've already used, which is nice when you come to eat the salad. To finish this dish off, I'm going to add a few spinach leaves. Coat them in a little drizzle of oil and position them on top. And lastly, I'll add a little more grated parmesan. Yum! I think this would definitely fit the description of something that looks amazing and doesn't disappoint when you take your first bite. Let's get on to our last option, a garnished roasted kumara ring. These are the things we need. A whole kumara, this is the orange variety, some goat's cheese, almond milk, fresh rosemary, dried cranberries, toasted almonds, and some honey. First we'll cut a few rings of kumara. Try to keep them all the same thickness to ensure they cook evenly, but also to keep the presentation uniform. If they're noticeably uneven, it's going to take away from the presentation. Arrange them on a baking tray and drizzle them with some oil. Try to coat them on both sides to ensure even roasting, and don't forget to add a little grind of rock salt. Roast them in a hot oven until they're browned and soft. These thin little rings don't take long. Here they are, cooked through and ready to finish. I've got some creamy goat's cheese here and a bit of almond milk to thin it down a little and make it more of a spreadable consistency. I'll add some chopped fresh rosemary. I love the flavours fresh herbs add to food, and lots of them you can grow at home quite easily. You can use dried alternatives if you don't have fresh herbs on hand, but make sure you use less as they're more concentrated. Mix it together until you've got a smooth, creamy mixture. Let's top each piece with a generous blob of the creamy goat's cheese mixture. Then we can put on some cranberries. For these ones, about 3 looks like the right balance. Then sprinkle on some of the chopped nuts and a little of our leftover chopped rosemary. And lastly, I'll drizzle on some honey to finish it off. To plate these, I'm just keeping it plain and simple, and I'll garnish it with a couple of twigs of rosemary. Doesn't that look delicious? This makes a lovely starter. You can even stack up a few slices to make it a slightly bigger portion, or you can serve single smaller slices as an amuse-bouche. Do you know what an amuse-bouche is? Here's a video where you'll find out what they are and learn how to make a couple. See you over there. Happy Kumara entree making!